What's going on, guys, and welcome to the very first episode of From Concept to Miniature. So recently the new Seraphon book came out, and basically wasn't good for the build that I was running, so that army is no longer exists. So what I had to basically, well, I didn't have to do, but what I'm going to do is I need to fill that gap with where I had sort of a Batman theme for my Seraphon. I wanted to do a miniature for the current army that I have, which is Beasts of Chaos, just kind of in tribute to that. So, what we're going to do is go through some drawings that I've done, and this episode is just mainly going to be talking about the concept behind it, some sketches of what it's going to look like, and then from there we're gonna make a miniature from scratch. So let's get into the concept art to begin with. So this is an initial sketch of what I was thinking. So this is normally how I start things out. It's got little notes, a basic idea of what the thing is actually going to look like, and then from there I sort of expand onto more of the details and such. So just doing tutorials on what this is going to be. The theme I want to go behind for, it has to fit my current Beasts of Chaos army so that it sort of fits in. So what I'm going to be doing with that is the theme behind it is Bloodborne and Dark Souls, so it's very dark and sort of twisted. And a dark, twisted version of Batman is the long Halloween Batman, so we're gonna kind of go with that theme. These are just sort of basic shape sketches of poses I was thinking of. So that being what it is, having those ideas in mind, we move on to more detailed work, which is this just here. So from there I move on to other things of what is the musculature going to look like, bits of armor, so his gauntlets, things like that, poses for certain areas that I think are going to be difficult, like such as the feet. I went through and I have a wolf head that I'm going to use, but I'm going to need to resculpt the snout because it doesn't quite look right. So here's just a sketch of a wolf snarling snout type deal. He's got to have that Batman look, and what's more iconic for Batman than the cowl and cape. So with this muscle structure, we're going to drape this over top. A hole for the wolf snout, obviously holes for his eyes. We're going to try and make it look like an Ungor, kind of shambled this all together. So there's going to be rough stitching on the front, coming down the back of his neck, around his neck. This is also going to give us that depth of field, and it's also going to give some texture to a cape that would basically be not very textured. So when we actually go to sculpt this, we are going to look at certain things, such as taking sponges, stuff like that, and sort of pressing it into the Magic Sculpt, the green stuff, the Procreate, to add a little bit more texture. And we'll go over that when we actually come to the sculpting. We've got sketches here of what his weapon's going to look like. I have weapon bits from other miniatures that I'm going to use for this, because sculpting a sword and getting it to look right and everything and be exactly the way you want it is an extremely difficult task whenever you have to do something that has to be like perfectly symmetrical, such as a sword. Ideas of what sort of armor plates are going to be on his legs and stuff. Obviously he's got to have the Batman-esque sort of gauntlets, so we've got that. We're gonna look at trying to sculpt some runes into the wristbands that go around. And so these are the basic detail drawings that I start out with. And then from here, we need to think about, okay, well, what is this miniature actually going to look like on his base? What is he going to be based on? The army being based around a Bloodborne-esque thing. I was originally doing this like cracked earth that had like this eerie glow, but now I'm thinking maybe we want to move it to more of a Yarnum-esque kind of feel. So more of like what you see with the easy build Nighthaunt kits where they've got those sculpted bases. So what I've actually done ahead of time is I've taken one of those easy build kits of the Dreadblade Harrow, and I actually made a mold of his base. Now there's two different kinds. I'm going to make two different kinds of molds, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to get some DAS clay. DAS is easy to work with, it air dries. The only downside to it is that it has a little bit of shrinkage, but we can use that to our advantage when it comes to this, because it's very easy to cut and shape once it's dry. So we can actually fill this and then cut the pieces out that we need to fit 25s, 32s, 40s, that type of deal. This product that I use to make a mold is called, let's have a look here, silicone putty. It's from Green Stuff World. It's a two-part silicone putty. You mix the two parts together and then you press it on whatever you want to make a mold of, and this is what you get. And it has a curing time of 2 to 5 minutes. So yeah, really great stuff. I use it for a ton of stuff. It's just really useful to have, and it's a really easy way to get some great looking bases that is kind of akin to a texture roller, but more, I find it's easier to get more detail when you do it this way. So moving on from the details, thinking about how the miniature is going to look on the base, how everything is going to look overall, we go into thinking about how the miniature is actually going to be posed on the base. Now, originally, I had wanted to do something more dynamic where he was either crouching or leaping or jumping through the air. And then I got to thinking about, well, we're doing a Bloodborne theme. Why don't we just take the cover of the Bloodborne game and just make it that? So what I've decided on is to have him sort of just standing there and holding his two swords, because a Beast Lord dual wields. So he's going to be having his two swords. You'll have this amazing silhouette from behind. He's going to be standing on this rocky outcropping with all kinds of broken debris and roses and skulls on the ground and stuff. And that is basically it. So we're gonna make it look like the Bloodborne cover, but with a werewolf who's Batman. So that's the idea behind this concept. Those are the sketches. I'll flip back to this one just so there's something more interesting to look at. And that's basically it. So this is going to be the very first video in a series of where we're going to go from this to an actual tangible finished miniature. The very first tutorial, we're going to start with basically the bare bones. We're going to sculpt the musculature of the torso. We're going to start there. From there we're going to move on to the legs and stuff, and then once we get all that situated and done, we're going to move on to sculpting these other finer details like the gauntlets and his cloak and cape and utility belt and all that good stuff. So that's where we are right now. I'm still playing around with this, thinking about other things that can be added. You don't want it to be too busy. But this is the challenge that we're setting forth right now as we wait for the miniature to arrive from Russia that I'm going to be turning into a Demon Prince. So while we're waiting on that, we will work on this, and then we'll finish this, and hopefully by the time this is done, the Demon Princess will be here, and we'll be able to start conversion work on that. And there will be a video series behind that as well. So, with that said, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.